but a vegan will take it a step further and not eat eggs or dairy or anything else that comes from an animal. And then also vegans would generally would not wear clothing that comes from an animal or use other products that come from an animal. So wool or silk or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, has veganism always been around, or it's something that started recently?
So there's been the idea of not using animal products in everyday life has been around for a very long time, and vegetarianism has definitely been around for thousands of years. The term veganism or vegan has only been around for I think about 60 years. But it's been around for long enough that it's starting to get some real traction around the world, and people are starting to actually understand the benefits.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about benefits, what are the pros and or benefits of being a vegan?
So at ProVeg we talk about the 5 pros, and those are the main reasons. There are some other smaller reasons that people don't talk about as much, but the main ones are health. A well-planned plant-based diet can be the healthiest possible diet. The environmental benefits are really big. Plant-based diets or vegan diets use a lot less land and water and cause a lot less pollution and things like that. And then there's the benefits to the animals. Obviously, if we're not eating animals, that's a huge benefit to the animals. And then food justice, which is one that people don't talk about as much, but it's really big in a place like South Africa. And that's the idea that we can feed a lot more people if we all eat mainly plant-based. There's a huge resource loss feeding animals food and then we eat the animals. Around the world, most of the crops that we grow are actually fed to animals and then we eat the meat. And a huge amount of calories and a huge amount of protein is lost in that process. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, one of the pros that we talk about is taste. People don't realize how good tasting this food can be, and people often just stick to the foods they're used to. So people think, vegans, it's so limiting, there's so little you can eat. But my experience and the experience of so many other people is we're sort of stuck in our ways when it comes to food. And when you change some habits, you actually end up eating a bigger range of food that you never thought about eating in the first place.
Mm-hmm. All right, so take us through just a simple diet that a vegan would consume on a daily basis.
So that's an interesting one because, a lot of people think that veganism is a diet, and there's so many different things that people can eat. So, you could be a healthy vegan, and for breakfast you could have oats, or you could have fruit salad or a smoothie, and then for lunch you could have, obviously all vegetables and fruit and legumes and beans. So, for example, today for lunch I had lentil stew that was left over, and then from last night, and then for dinner again. There are lots of products like tofu and tempeh and lots of meat replacement products. So tonight I'm planning on going out and having a Beyond Meat burger, which is this fancy plant-based burger out of the United States. Tastes exactly like beef. But people must realize that there's lots of different options. So, things like slap chips and Doritos and Coca-Cola, those are all vegan too. Mm-hmm. So there's a huge range, and I think some people think that vegans are always healthy. Some people look at the things like slap chips and then they think that vegans aren't healthy. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned about the burger that you're going to be enjoying, and I realized that I came across something on social media that mentioned a plant-based range of pork. I mean, it's all plants and no pork. Does having such product defeat the purpose of being a vegan, or it's like it's okay to eat something that imitates an animal but is not really an animal?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. People say, "Well, you're vegan. Why do you want to eat something that looks and tastes like pork?" And the thing is, for most of us, we grew up eating these products, and we like the taste, we like the texture. Often we just want to have something we can throw in the braai. And life hasn't changed a huge amount for us. All that we're saying is we don't want to contribute to animal suffering. We don't want to contribute to this environmental problems, and we want to eat something that's a little bit healthier, maybe less saturated fat and less cholesterol. So if we can get all of these benefits from a product that looks and tastes the same as it always has, then to the majority of us, that's fantastic. So these products really help people who want to make these positive switches, but are battling to know what to eat, or maybe they just don't feel satisfied if they don't eat something that's meaty. So it's a really big, important part of the vegan movement.
And now, is being a vegan affordable?
That's also a very, very good question. And, it depends again how you do it. So a lot of people accuse us as vegans to be like, oh, it's so expensive. But the reality is, if you walk into a grocery store and look at the average basket of goods, the most expensive things in there are usually cheese and bacon and meat. I mean, if you're looking at the cost of good quality meat, it's really, really expensive. So if you switch your meat out for a product like lentils or beans, which are also high in protein, high in iron, and the other things that meat bring you, it ends up being way cheaper. Lentils are way cheaper than meat. But if you opt for the fancy vegan cheeses and like I said, the Beyond Meat burger is an amazing burger, but it's really expensive, then you can choose the expensive vegan alternatives, or you can choose more whole food, the traditional types of food that we already eat. I mean, in South Africa, the cheapest food to get a fully nutritious meal is sampan, beans, and spinach. You get basically everything you need from that, and that's the cheapest meal you can get. So for those people who are eating less processed products and aren't buying these expensive imported products, switch to a vegan diet can actually save you a lot of money.
All right. So I think I'm going to go on a 30-day vegan diet challenge and see how much I'll save at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Okay,
can I just mention that quickly?
Yeah.
The ProVeg actually has a vegan challenge, and if you Google ProVeg Veggie Challenge, there's a 1-month challenge that you can sign up on our website. It's completely free, and every day we'll send tips and recipes and advice, and you can join a Facebook group to ask people questions. So it's the ProVeg Veggie Challenge.
All right. That sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to try, because I was thinking about going vegetarian, because I don't know how long I'd last being a vegan. But, I'll start somewhere, and, there's always a place to start.
And the biggest thing that people must remember is that any steps in the right direction are positive steps. So even if it's just doing Green Monday, just eating plant-based 1 day a week, or if it's just experimenting a little bit, trying more plant-based options, you have to be either vegan or vegetarian or meat eater. You can be what the industry is now calling flexitarian, which is you reduce sometimes, maybe not all of the time, but you start taking those steps towards trying to live a little bit more plant-based.
Now, speaking about meat, what would you say to someone who says that, oh, well, God put animals on earth for human consumption?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When we talk about religion, it basically just comes down to people's opinions. But I think for most people, if you want to look at the scripture, and you want to look at being what is really important, and I think most people would, if they had the choice between asking someone to kill a cow for their meat or just eating the falafel burger, if they really thought about the choices that they were making, they wouldn't want to put an animal through that just because they can, And the scriptures aren't 100% clear about whether or not we should be eating the animals. As much as some people can say, God put the animals here for us to eat, He's also said, God's put us in charge of looking after everything and making sure that everything is peaceful and nice here. And if you go into a slaughterhouse, I don't think that's somewhere where most people would think that that's what God wanted happening on earth.
And by the way, falafel burgers are amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the myths around veganism?
Oh, there's so many, but the one that I get often, and it's an interesting one for me personally, because people just saying, but you can't get enough protein. You're gonna lose all your muscle. And it's funny because they're talking to me, and sometimes it's people that I know, and I did Ironman and Comrades a month apart a couple of years ago after being vegan for 4 years, and I'm stronger and fitter and healthier than I've ever been. So that's one of the biggest myths, is that vegans don't get all the nutrients, especially protein, and there's plenty of protein in plant-based sources. I mean, then there's things like, we've got canines. So because we have canines, that means that we should be eating animals. But, if you look at the size of our canines, they're tiny, compared to a lion or something. And, from a biological point of view, it's very unlikely that we were meant to eat cows. If our teeth, we can't even bite through the skin of a cow. We have to cut it up and cook it. So it's interesting when we start looking at the biology. A lot of the myths sort of indicate that we should be eating meat. But if you actually look at the biology and we shouldn't. And then another interesting one we often get is, but if we don't eat the cows, then they're going to just breed and there's going to be overpopulation, and that's also, I mean, in South Africa and around the world, the reality is there's only so many cows because we breed them. If we stop breeding them, they would, it's not like there's just lots of cows going and having babies. We are making that happen. And if we didn't, then it would just, the populations wouldn't go crazy. It's not that hard to keep the male cows and the female cows apart and have them not have kids. I could go on and on for days about all of the myths. Are there any specific ones that you've heard that you want me to talk about?
Yeah, just quickly go through them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of myths about vegan food not tasting nice, and I mean that's very easy to debunk if you visit one of the vegan restaurants in South Africa or lots of the restaurants that have good vegan options. Do you want me to, can I mention some of them for your listeners?
Yes, please.
Which reasons would be most interesting to you?
I'm interested to find out. Yeah.
So in Cape Town, there's the Kind Kitchen, which is a really nice like artisanal eatery. They have branches in Woodstock and Constantia. If you're looking for junk food, there's the Lekker Vegan. They have these like triple decker schnitzel burgers and Gatsby's. On the healthier side, there's Marianne's Emporium in Millie Point. In Cape Town, there's a lot, and then in Johannesburg, Leafy Greens Leafy Greens is an amazing restaurant. Greenside Cafe, Lexi's Eatery is my favorite restaurant in South Africa. They have 3 branches in Johannesburg. There are a few, I can't think of all of them offhand, but those are, I think, are the best ones. And then in Durban, there's Oh My Soul Cafe. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of options where there's lots of non-vegan restaurants that have really good vegan options now. So, a lot of people are getting very excited about like Hudson's and even now Spur has, you think that Spur would be the last place to have good vegan options, but they have a whole plant-based menu using products from the Five Family Food Co., chicken-style burgers, beef-style burgers, and they also have the Beyond Meat burger.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like a treat, and I'm definitely going to try one of these restaurants whenever I'm in either Cape Town, Durban, or Greenside, Johannesburg. Now, quickly, how can one transition from being a meat eater to a vegan without overwhelming themselves?
So people need to just figure out what works for them best. I know some people like myself who went vegan overnight after doing some research first. And then most people, it's easier to transition by adding more plant-based options and just reducing the amount of meat you eat. And it's really important to look at, if you need recipes, look online, or I recommend often, especially if you like eating out, just Google good vegan restaurants in your area, try those options. And there's also vegan markets in Cape Town, Joburg, and Durban. So just go on Facebook and look for the vegan markets and go and try those foods. I mentioned it earlier, Green Monday has a really cool campaign where you eat vegan on Mondays, or is very similar to Meat Free Mondays. And then I think the easiest way for people to do it is to sign up for the Pro-Veg Veggie Challenge. And you can sign up either for a vegan challenge for a month or a vegetarian challenge, or just a challenge where you say, I'm going to eat plant-based a few days a week. And depending on which challenge you sign up for, you get different emails and you get your tips and advice, and then we'll invite you to events. And it's really the easiest way. I went vegan doing it, an official challenge, and I know a lot of people have, and it really makes it easier to not have to think about what you're doing. We provide all of the information that you need.
All right. So thank you so much for your time, for chatting to us and definitely debunking all the myths surrounding veganism. You kind of made it more interesting and something that people can definitely look into, especially with all the diseases and stuff that we get from eating a lot of meat. So thank you so much for your time, and do have yourself a lovely day.
Well, thank you very much. Yes.
All right, so that was Donovan Will, the director of Pro-Veg South Africa and the local expert on all things veganism and sustainability. I am going to Pro-Veg right now, and I'm going to sign up for that challenge so that I can try out this veganism and vegism, vegetarian. No, what is it? Herbivore. Yeah, I'm going to try being a herbivore now. Herbie goes bananas. All right, it is at 12:49. Do stay with us. We will be right back.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Visit the most exclusive abaya boutique in Durban, Lamia Abaya and Fabric House, specializing in individually sourced